little bit about stirrup management. We talked a little bit about the reins in the Hackamore video we just shot. This is my preferred riding boot. Either riding Olathes or this is a Paul Bond. These boots, the heel is set up to balance you in the stirrup, and a lot of boots you're off-the-shelf type boot, the heel will be further back, which will when you put it in the stirrup it'll naturally kind of tip your leg back. And this one's made more for guys that ride a lot of miles in a day. It's kind of centered on your stirrup. It's a very well balanced boot, very well made boot. These are, but they're also quite expensive. I ride a long spur because I got a long leg. My legs hang down quite a ways below most horses. When I ride a real short spur, I have to lift my foot up out of the stirrup to touch them with it. This way it just kind of helps me. If I've got a horse that's a little squirrely and is pushing through my leg, I can touch them with that spur and not have to tip my foot up much out of the stirrup. But these are stirrups I ride most of the time. They're pretty comfortable when you do a lot of riding. They're fairly wide. I got quite a bit of mud in them right now. But I'll generally ride with a full bite, because these boots are pretty balanced. Now another pair of boots I got, they're a little cheaper. They got a rubber sole on them. These are leather soles, which I really believe in for safety. And the leather soles in the water obviously don't last very long. But depending on what you're doing, you may want your foot back out of the stirrup and have your heels down a little bit more. If you get a full bite in there, if you do happen to come off and you don't know how to pop your feet out of a stirrup, you could end up hanging up just a little bit, especially on something that's got some traction or a thick rubber soled boot. On a thick rubber soled boot, take them up to your saddle shop and get them to grind that sharp edge off there on around here where it's going to hang up in your stirrup. A lot of times when I'm doing something pretty athletic on a horse, I'm going to ride with a full heel bite and my toes down a little bit. That kind of helps me stay with the motion of the horse or just ahead of it. And if I'm riding, trail riding or out riding across the country, I'm going to have my foot back a little bit so my calves can help absorb the motion and the concussion. And if I'm working on some things in the arena, I'm going to want my foot pretty centered in the stirrup. But practice, it's real important to practice popping your foot from there to the full heel bite as you're moving on the horse. Practice that. Practice taking your feet out and putting them back in as the horse is moving. Then if a horse ever slips, especially like right now, it's pretty slick on some of these hillsides. If a horse ever does slip and start to go down with you, you can already get your toes out of the stirrups just in case he goes down. You're not going to get your foot stuck in there when he's laying on you. But practice that. I think that's real important, especially let's say you're doing some riding and the horse gets spooked, starts going sideways or gets spooked from behind, gets going forward. You're going to want to get your foot in them stirrups and get a good grip and get your toes down where you can kind of get locked into that saddle a little better. I used to ride iron oxbows. We'll do another video on different types of stirrups. And that's the way I was taught with the oxbow. You get your boots wet, leather soled boot, and then you ride with that oxbow right in here, so it puts a groove in your boot when it's wet. And then you can go from a full heel bite if a horse is jumping around with you, or if you think you're going to come off, you can pop your foot out where you won't get hung up. That's something that's real important to me in a stirrup. A lot of people are just taught to ride with their foot just one way in the stirrup. And that might work good in the arena, but if you're doing anything athletic or riding in rough country, these other stirrup positions will really help you a bunch. So don't be afraid to experiment. I'll even, on some horses, depending on where I'm riding and what I'm doing, I'll get my toe down and get my feet back a little bit. And that really helps my body stay with the motion of the horse. You know, or I may want to get my feet forward a little bit, which is kind of a natural thing, but a lot of people don't use this position here, and it can be real helpful of keeping with the motion of the horse, or ahead of it if you're getting ready to do something athletic, coming out of a roping box or jumping. But you should be competent at any gait to move your feet in and out of the stirrups without losing one. I think that's real important to safety. A lot of people, if they ride long enough, sooner or later they'll get hung up, usually when they're dismounting, and they'll fall on the ground. But that little bit of a hang up, if you come off at speed, you could get drugged for a ways, you could get stepped on, you could get kicked. And I've seen it happen to people. So it's just a little thing, but to me at least, it's real important to keep people safe. Thank you.